Welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast, where we cut through the buzzwords, the jargons, the trends, and we talk honestly about business, growth, and the choices that shape entrepreneurial lives. Okay, so today, listeners, I'm bringing you a conversation which is going to explore franchising. And let's be honest, franchising is one of those words that comes loaded. For some people, it sounds like a safer path to entrepreneurship. For others, it feels restrictive, expensive, or even overhyped. And what we don't hear enough are the real stories, the messy middle, the trade offs. And my guest today, listeners, brings that perspective in a very grounded way. Max Emma is a certified franchise executive with over 2 decades of experience, listeners, in franchising. Now, he has worked with over 100 franchise brands, built and scaled his own bookkeeping franchise, gone through bankruptcy, and today he leads 3 companies rooted in franchising and entrepreneurship. Max also came to the US from the former Soviet Union over 30 years ago, barely speaking English, and he built his career from the ground up. So, let me tell you, listeners, this is not a highlight reel conversation. We are going to talk about what franchising actually really demands, who it works for, who it doesn't, and what people often misunderstand before signing on the dotted line. So, Max, welcome to Brisbane. I'm really honored to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sana. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
Max, I absolutely honor because I think coming to a foreign land and then starting from the scratch, language being a kind of a blocker in there, and then um, you know, kind of becoming the guru expert in something as tough as franchising. I mean, it's a very challenging, yet I'm very sure a very exciting journey. So to begin with, Max, franchising is often marketed as a proven system or sometimes even a shortcut to entrepreneurship. From your experience on both sides, as a franchisee, as a franchisor, where do you think that perception breaks down in reality?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is that franchising is the entrepreneurship because franchising um, is quite opposite. You do follow the blueprint, you do follow the system.
Mm-hmm.
To give you an example, if you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking of different ways how to make money. But franchising is not going to allow you to sell pizza at McDonald's. It's just not going to happen, even if it's going to bring you a lot of revenue, because
Mm.
this is not a pizza store. So
Yeah.
I believe that a franchisee becomes entrepreneur when they
Mhm.
have multiple locations. Then you are juggling different businesses, different locations. You usually have managers in all of them, and that makes you entrepreneur. So, is that a shortcut to um, opening the business? Absolutely, because look, there is such thing as an opportunity cost. You probably could figure out all the mistakes yourself. It's just gonna take you time. Why do it? I always give an example. Um, Almost anybody can figure out how to open a pizza restaurant, but how many pies you gonna burn before you actually gonna get to the best recipe? And also, what's the layout of the kitchen so people who are working there are not hitting each other all the time? Franchisors already figured that out, and they know exactly how many pieces of pepperoni should go on the pizza so it becomes profitable and looks the same and tastes the same. Because cheese pizza at Domino's gonna taste exactly the same in California, in India, or in Greenland.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense, Max. Makes sense. When someone comes to you, Max, expecting reduced risk or quicker, faster returns, what is the first assumption you actively try to correct before they move forward?
Well, I want to make sure they understand they would have to work for it. In most
Mm,
cases, you would have to do some work. It's just different type of franchises. For example,
mm,
if we're talking about my bookkeeping franchise, my franchisees are responsible for um, going and getting new business. Yes, we as a franchisor help them to get some, but they have to go and, acquire the new businesses. They have to go and talk to CPAs. They have to go and talk to small business owners and that type of stuff. If we take McDonald's, for example, the owner of McDonald's franchise is not going around the city giving everybody a flyer, please try McDonald's, because everybody knows McDonald's. His job is different. When people show up at McDonald's, he needs to make sure that people get the food and the food is fresh, fast,
mm,
and meets their expectations. So the franchisees of McDonald's have to fulfill. I mean, an average McDonald's, if we're talking about it, has 50 plus employees. So you have to work with that many people and you have to make sure that you always have enough people because, if the line is going to go outside of the door, then customers can say, you know what, I'm not going to wait 30 minutes to get my hamburger. I'm going to go somewhere else. So it's a little bit different. That's why it doesn't matter what franchise you buy, you will have to put some work. Even if you don't have to do it yourself, there's nobody expecting the owner of McDonald's to go and flip the burgers. But
mhm.
he or she has to understand how it's done, and he or she has to manage the managers of this location, make sure that everything is correct.
Absolutely. And I think this is exactly what, I've also not exactly firsthand observed, but I have been made aware in different conversations that owning a franchise or starting a franchise doesn't mean that you're handing over everything and, you're sitting and you are just getting your money, making money. It still demands the basic business 101, the entrepreneurship 101. If you are in the food franchise or bookkeeping franchise or healthcare or wellness, any industry, you need to know the basics in there, and you need to make sure that your franchisee, they are able to deliver the value that people would personally know you for, or maybe the brand or the name for.
Okay. Um, Look,
Mhm.
it's when somebody opening a franchise,
Mhm.
the huge responsibility of a franchisor, and that what differentiates a good franchisor from not so good franchisor, is the training.
Mhm.
So training is huge because you don't know what you don't know. A lot of people who buy franchises never had businesses before. There are obviously some serial entrepreneurs that have 10 different businesses and they just increasing their portfolio. But most of the people, they work for corporate America and then they leave their jobs so they can start to be their own boss. And then we have to train them on business, on sales, on operations. So pretty much everything. That's why it takes time. And also, for example, for bookkeeping, we do the ongoing training on a weekly basis. And then after our franchisees buy a franchise and open a franchise, they get 3 months of accounting school, 9 months of sales training, and then 12 months of executive coaching. So it is
Mm.
very, very, very important. And the other franchises I represent, with the first question I have my candidates to ask, what kind of training am I going to get? What is the value of the franchise fee?
Mm. Yeah, I agree with it. I agree with you, Max. Okay, and moving on, um, you help people choose franchises, but um, so my question to you would be like, like sometimes even the best advice is telling someone not to buy one. Maybe not, everything is for someone. So what personality traits or expectations tend to clash most with franchising as a model?
So the person who buys a franchise has to be coachable, has to be able to learn and follow the system. Franchising is not for everybody. Look, I, for example, own three businesses and probably will be adding more to my portfolio. So I'm not a good model to be a franchisee because I will have more ideas that my franchisors want to hear. So, and look, yes, the suggestions are huge, and every smart franchisor is asking for suggestions and listening to suggestions. But ultimately, you cannot do everything that your franchisees suggest. Even though sometimes the best things in the business come from franchisees. From what I understand, Big Mac came from a franchisee suggestion. The bucket for KFC chicken came from a franchisee. So now it's a trademark of KFC chicken, but KFC restaurants, but it came as a suggestion from one of the franchisees. So it is very important, yet the person who is buying a franchise cannot be in control of the brand.
Hmm, that makes sense. That actually makes sense. And um, I actually appreciate that honesty, Max, because um, honestly, the industry conversation, it often focuses on eligibility and finances, not the temperament. You are is the franchise owner is coachable or not. And I think for listeners who value independence and creativity, um, what do you think? Like, where is the line between a healthy customization and breaking the system you paid for?
Well, again, typically franchise doesn't let you customize anything. You have to follow the system. So for example, if the colors of the business logo is red, white, and black, a franchise will not let you change the colors to green, yellow, and blue because you just feel that you like this colors better. So you have to be consistent. you know all the logos are copyrighted, everything is trademarked. So there is not much room for customization. However, there is room for creativity, how you're going to get the clients. So if there are ways that you can think of to bring new business, then go ahead and do it. It's always it's always welcome, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a first month's free, if it's a service business, of course, if it's some kind of coupons, you can definitely do that. So there is creativity in that, but most of the time there is not much creativity in running the business, if you know what I mean.
I understand. I understand. Yeah. That I also really um, I appreciate, I value a proper system, a proper structure in there because I think without that, it's just chaotic or it's just mismanagement.
Yep.
Okay, a bit of a personal question here, Max. I started the conversation appreciating your journey because your story as an immigrant entrepreneur is very powerful. So, but still, I want to approach this carefully. Like some people say, franchising is especially appealing for immigrants because of structure and brand recognition. Others argue it can limit upward mobility. So, from your own lived experiences, Max, how do you see franchising fitting into the immigrant entrepreneurship journey here?
Well, from my personal experience and the people that I've met who are immigrants, and let's be honest, a lot of people in the United States are either first generations or immigrants themselves. Most of the immigrants are hard workers by definition, and that's what makes them successful, in my opinion. It's not necessarily because franchising is the only opportunity. Look, when you buy most of the franchises, you have to get financing. And in order to get financing, you have to be bankable. In order to be bankable, you have to probably live in a country for a while, have a job, have a house, have mortgage, so you have credit history. Not everybody gonna get loans from the government, even though the money is available and you can get it, but you have to qualify for it. So I don't think it's because immigrants are, the franchising is designed for immigrants. I think it's not correct in my opinion, but it's the fact that we as the immigrants, we are the hardworking people. So that's because a lot of people who are born in this country, unfortunately, and I don't agree with that, and it's not everybody, but quite a few people take what they get for granted, and we have to work hard to succeed.
100%. 100%. I also agree with you. I mean, I think it shouldn't be like a generalization or just a blank statement that, franchising only works for immigrants, but the fact that as an immigrant, we have to prove, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to prove our um, worth by working harder, maybe working smarter, working in a more efficient way, just to prove that we deserve to be a part of the present system here, the prevailing system here. I think that kind of indirectly fits into this entire personality trait, or the prerequisite for owning a successful franchisee, or even making anything success that especially the immigrant entrepreneurs or anyone who is trying to create something and make it as a part of an economy.
Yep. I mean, we have to work hard for your goals. I mean, nothing comes easy in life. It doesn't have to be too hard, but you have to make steps to get it done. I mean, and look, it's totally fine to have failures before you're actually successful. Most of the people um, that became successful lost businesses before, lost money, and as they say here in the U.S., what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So it's a great learning experience. I mean, I had to go through bankruptcy, both business and personal, to learn a lot of things that I know now. And it was a painful experience, but I'm um, grateful that I went through this experience because I would not be where I am today without that.
Hmm. And my uh, final question, kind of, it's this kind of related to this, because um, there's a myth that franchising protects you from failure. And clearly, that's not always true. So, like, because you have been very open, you just share, how you had to go through failure to understand. It's a part of your success trajectory as well. So, was there a point where following the system wasn't enough, Max, and you had to step outside it to survive?
What do you mean by stepping outside?
Like, maybe not exactly deviating, maybe getting out of that comfort zone or getting out of that system and doing something more just to survive.
Well, absolutely. You have to pivot because a lot of the time, the things are beyond your control.
Mm,
We all remember COVID, and it's really strange in my mind that it's been 6 years. Seems like yesterday, but 6 years ago, we were just talking about it. The country was working, everything was doing great. I mean, people were traveling. I mean, some countries in Asia already started to see it, but US, we there were just talks on the news about COVID in China, but that was about it. And look, months and a half later, the country shut down, the world shut
mm,
down. So, um, I was at the franchise conference about a month before the shutdown, and everybody was talking about fitness franchises because, well, you have to be stupid not to buy fitness franchise because everybody is about fitness, everybody's making money, and look, 30 days later all these gyms shut down for over a year. So a lot of the smaller franchisees of small brands, they went out of business, and that's beyond their control. They were hardworking people, they did everything they were supposed to, but stuff happened beyond their control. I mean, there is weather, there's a lot of other stuff. It's life. So yes, you have to be ready to pivot from your plan. Nothing is always to 100% to the plan. You have to be ready for changes. And between you and me and the listeners, it actually, in my opinion, that's what makes it fun. Because if I know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, day after, and next week, I mean, I'm not going to enjoy it. I like the fact that new things coming up all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a very, very healthy way because personally, I also had to learn it hard way that, if you knew everything that's going to happen tomorrow or maybe 1 year or 5 years, 10 years later, what's the fun? What's the fun in learning and what's the fun in growing? So yeah, 100% Max. Amazing, amazing. I mean, this has been such a raw conversation for especially for the founders or entrepreneurs who are listening, Max. Before we wrap up, if listeners they would like to connect with you, especially who are interested to explore franchising as an option of exploring the entrepreneurship waters, testing the waters in there, what would be the easiest way to connect with them?
So the best way to find me and connect is through my website, and it's franchisewithmax.com. Since I own multiple businesses, I can help people with bookkeeping for their businesses, not me personally, but my companies. We can also help you to purchase a bookkeeping franchise. So if it's not a good match, we do help people to find over 600 different franchises, and our services are completely free. We only get paid if somebody buys the franchise. We get commissions from a franchisor, which we actually share with the candidates, and also pay for 9 months of their sales training. So again, the best way to find me is on franchisewithmax.com.
Amazing. Listeners, you all know I'm going to definitely have all the links and details in the show notes so that you can reach out to Max. And I think, listeners, let me tell you what I have learned, at least, from this conversation is uh, there's nothing good or bad about franchising. It is demanding, it is structured, it needs hard work and dedication, and it also rewards clarity more than just optimism. So, Max, thank you so much for this raw conversation and for helping us understand not just franchising, but life in general as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, son. I appreciate that.
Yes, yes. And to all the listeners, I think it's a very strong place to land. Franchising is not a shortcut, it is a commitment. And like any commitment, it works best when entered with eyes open, not just ambition. Until next time, if this episode has sparked questions or challenged your assumptions, that's the point. Business growth is really linear, and clarity is always more valuable than the hype. Until next time, this is Sana, and you have been listening to BizBlend. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.